Hello everyone and welcome back to SimRacingOnline. This is round 2 of the TC Legends, the Good, the Bad and the Ugly series. We're here at the 1975 version of the Interlagos circuit, which you may know today as the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pérez. And as I said, this is round 2 of the championship. 2 weeks ago we had a close and exciting round at Bajkanieki in Latvia. Tony Talviti won that in the Porsche 911. And other drivers to look out for in terms of the championship fight: Laurent Lons and John Van der Geest. They were the other drivers on the podium last time out, followed of course by Glyn Jones and Kirill Kirilov. And the other drivers making up the top 10 in the championship are Csaba Lako, Lorenzo Galuzzi, Kimi Martikainen, Stefan Lagodin and Michal Mazurek. Just waiting for drivers to start setting their flying laps. Let's have a quick watch of Kirill Kirilov here, currently 5th in the championship in the very nicely coloured light blue Porsche, being followed through by a Mustang there. Great variety of cars available in this league. It's one of the things that I like most about it. Just the sheer number of cars available and how different they all are. And you'll notice actually that all of these corners are very different to how they are to today's Jose Carlos Pérez. There are some corners that you will probably recognise as being relatively similar, but a lot of it is actually very different, and that is of course because the track did very literally go around and between the lakes, as you can see there. And it kind of wiggled back in on itself a lot more than it does in the current layout. When we get a driver coming round to the start of the lap, I might give you, or I will give you a full tour of the circuit to show you exactly what's similar to it to nowadays and exactly what's changed. But anyway, for the time being, Kirill Kirilov drifting the car out and approaching, I think he's approaching the end of the circuit anyway. It can be hard to tell at this track sometimes, but anyway, this all looks very familiar to me. And that is very sideways. That's a bit too sideways actually. He goes off the road, so we'll have to go for another attempt. Still no one on my timing tower, so I'm gonna have to keep flicking out of the cameras. Let's look at Jeffrey Ruskus, because he was actually one of the fastest drivers in practice. I was very impressed by the pace of Jeffrey Ruskus. Now he wasn't actually at the first round of the championship. There was a Mustang, but it was a different driver who was piloting it. So Jeffrey Ruskus in the number 2 Mustang today, showing us what he can do already with his very first practice time, and he could be a real contender for the win today. He's got a car just glitching behind him there. Little bit of lag. A little bit more lag than I'm used to on the server at the minute. I hope that's not on my end, but if it is, I do apologise. Hopefully it will sort itself out. But anyway, just keep watching Jeffrey Ruskus as he rounds the final few corners of the lap and is about to start another one. So here we go for a full lap of the 1970s Interlagos circuit. It's 8 kilometers long, a very long track compared to the ones you may be used to these days. And still no one on the timing tower, but anyway, Ruskus just heading down to turn 1. Now turn 1 is quite similar to how it is these days, although with much less runoff on the outside, and also you don't have to set yourself up for a left, right, left chicane as you do nowadays. Those are known quite simply as Curva 1 and Curva 2, very creatively named, and now I can actually get the timing tower up. Jolly good. Now heading down a much longer run to turn 3 than we're used to these days, down the straight known as Retard. And there is Curva 3. Curva 4 here is known as Hunkau. And it's actually not where the modern Hunkau is. It's a little bit further down the road. And what is now Hunkau is actually a completely different corner on this circuit, but we'll get to that in a minute. Up another straight and towards the tight left-hander at Ferradura. Ferradura, the second tightest corner on the lap. You see the catch fencing and some concrete lettering to the inside of the circuit there, which is how you'll remember that corner. Now we literally go Interlagos, between the lakes, as we flick through Curva do Sargento and Subida do Lago. And that is the sector of the course that gave it its name, which is sad because that's not really still a part anymore. That's actually where Huncao is today. Anyway, up the Reta Reposta and towards the Curva do Sol, which tucks in rather nicely to the inside of Curvas 1 and 2 if you look at it on a map, and pretty much disorientates you if you're looking at it on a map as well. Now we go back into a left-hander as Galuzzi now jumps up to 5th position. This corner actually doesn't have a name unless I'm reading the map wrong, in which case it could be Curva di Sargento. I think it probably is, actually, looking at the map. So that was Curva di Sargento. Estacionamento is the right-hander that we're flicking through there for the much easier to pronounce Laranja. And that, of course, you'll probably recognise as being the corner where Lewis Hamilton went off in qualifying in 2017, or at least the Estacionamento corner is. Now into what is now known as the Senna S, Penhairenio. Apologies if I'm saying that wrong. And then Curtavello. Magulo takes you downhill through the left. Slippery when wet, no runoff on the outside. And then we head towards the end of the lap. Subida do Boises is the next left-hander. And it's flat out from here, no braking, no lifts. And then you enter the familiar final corner of the lap, which is Aki Banquedas, or at least that is what it was known as back in the day. The pit lane goes off to the left, Ruskas stays to the right, and actually that's not an improvement on his lap, so he stays first, but does not improve his lap time. Let's have a look at some of the other, whoa, and someone's just jumped up to the top. It is Kirill Kirilov, so Kirilov now goes to P1 in the aqua coloured Porsche. Number 1 is P1. Anyway, let's take a look at some of the other cars in this race, because one of the best things about this series is the variety of types of cars available. Here you have the Porsche 911 RS, theoretically the fastest car in the league, took pole position last time out and went on to win the race. We have Jeffrey Ruska's powering a Ford Mustang, a 60s Ford Mustang. Come into view. There we go. That is a lot better. Let's get a better, clearer view for you there. Shabalako has a Ford Escort with its familiar bone-shaped headlight arrangement. Laurent Lons has a BMW 2002, confusingly not made in 2002, but anyway, inversely slanted front gives it that characteristic surprised look. Another Porsche. Here is an MGB GT. This driven by Phil Brown. Almost looks like it has a mustache. Very, very British looking. Husky Energy sponsorship on the front, as he heads into Lagos. Lorenzo Galuzzi has a Toyota 2000 GT. One of the strangest and narrowest cars in the grid. John Van der Geest with that beautifully, just wonderfully liveried Ford Escort. Deliberately rusty, deliberately dirty. That's what I like to see. Very 1960s, but in fine condition. Maxime Tendil's just had a spin in the Austin Healey. Now it's good to see an Austin Healey here actually, because we didn't have any of them present last time out. But we now do have an Austin Healey in the grid. And I always love the look of these classic little sports cars based on a concept built in the 1940s, I think. Mariusz Labioda has a Alpha GT8, which didn't appear particularly quick last time out. Michal Mazurek also in a GT8, struggling for pace slightly so far. big disparity in terms of lap times so far. And talking of big, Kimi Martikainen has the Mercedes AMG 300 SL. The absolute huge, mighty Mercedes, which came second in the Spa 24 Hours 1 year in the 70s, I think probably 71 or 72. There are still some more cars. Here's Bill Grewcock. Now he has a Mustang. He's actually changed his livery from one race to another. Gone red, used to be in a similar blue livery to the one powered by Ruskus. Christian Darger here about to complete a lap in his, and he does improve his time actually, in his Alpine A110 with the Scottish flag on the roof, despite the fact that Darger himself is not Scottish, he's actually French. What other cars do we have? Do we have any others in the field? Not entirely sure. I think we have 20 cars on track at the minute, so we are actually missing a few in terms of cars that are actually theoretically available. Let's watch Mark Johnston for a bit. Also available, Lotus Cortina. We saw one of those last time out, Jose Branco, although he didn't last very long in that race. Also technically available, Datsun 510, only saw one of those last time out. Ford Fairlane, only saw one of those last time out as well. Hillman Imp, same goes for that beautiful little hill climb car. Jaguar Mark II, same for that. Mazda RX-3, same for that. Disappointing we don't have any of those here because that has a beautiful rotary sounding engine, and the only two cars that we haven't seen race at all yet this series are the MGA Race and the Mini Cooper, who no one has taken for either round, but still a fantastic variety of cars available today. And that is always wonderful to see because it keeps the series so interesting and so visually beautiful. But anyway, the checkered flag is now out on this qualifying session, so we'll see who qualifies where and if anyone can improve on their laps. Currently it's Kirill Kirilov still holding that P1 position. Hello to Harry Aikisalo, apologies if I pronounced that wrong, or Aikisale, who is in the YouTube chat, saying go Kimi and go Jari. Well, Kimi Martikainen is currently P15 and Jari Lakkonen currently P3, so I think Jari is probably the more competitive of the two at the minute. But anyway, let's watch Mark Johnson. Never mind, he's coming into the pits, so no improvements for Johnson. I wonder if anyone else in the top few positions is improving on their lap. What about Saba Lacko? He has to find a second and a half in order to improve on Jeffrey Roscos, which I think is probably a little bit too much to ask, but he's going to give it his best shot anyway. Let's watch Roscos actually, because he could still potentially get pole position here. He needs to find just under a tenth of a second if he's going to jump up a position. Kirilov doesn't appear to be improving. Looking at his sector times, I don't think that's going to be an improvement from him. Interestingly, Stefan Lagodin and Paul Upham are also registered as being in this session, so hopefully both of those will start a race. I'm not entirely sure what they're piloting, but I'm sure we will find out soon. Here comes Roscos through the final corner. Let's see if he can take pole position just as he did in practice. Across the line, and he does not improve. Just misses out. So Jeffrey Roscos will be starting from second position in this race. What about Shaba Lacko? I don't think he's going to improve by enough, but let's watch the end of his lap anyway. And he does improve, but as I expected, not by enough. Is anyone still yet to complete a lap? Kimi Martikainen coming through in the Mercedes, and he comes into the pits. I want to quickly have a look. What are Lagodin and Upham registered in? Lagodin does have... Oh, he has a Mazda RX-3, and he's about to complete a lap of his own, and he's actually jumped up the order with that one. he went to 18th place. So we do have a Mazda RX-3 here today. That's good to see. And Upham has a BMW 200T, although did not set a qualifying lap. So hopefully he will start the race, but it's unsure. So there's the grid order anyway. It's Kirill Kirilov taking pole position by less than a tenth of a second. 3:19.165 was his lap. Jeffrey Ruskas was second place. Csaba Lako was a little bit further behind, so the top two appear to be quite a way ahead in terms of pace, and it may be a two-way scrap between the two of them. But anyway, Csaba Lako third place, Laurent Lunds is fourth, then it's Mark Johnson, Phil Brown, Lorenzo Galuzzi, Kai Sivertsen, John Van der Geest, Glyn Jones, Maxim Tendil, Mariusz Laboida, Michal Mazurek, Sid Drake, Kimi Matikainen, Bill Grukok, Christian Darga, Stefan Lagodin, Jari Lakinen, Klaus Jurgensen, Jose Branco, and then Paul Upham running up the grid if indeed he starts. Interestingly, no Tony Talviti, so we don't have our championship leader here, and that means that our championship leader elect is Laurent Lunds, who starts fourth in the BMW 200T, and second in the championship elect, I suppose, is John Van der Geest, who starts ninth in the Escort. Quite a big disparity in terms of lap times, almost 10 seconds separating the field, so that means well, it is quite a long lap, so that should be to be expected, although I wasn't expecting there to be 1.4 seconds between second and third on the grid. But anyway, that's the great thing about Sim Racing Online. Whatever your ability is, and however good you are, you'll always find someone to race against, and someone who is on a similar ability to you. And if you want to get involved in this this league, then I very much suggest that you should. It's a very exciting one, and I think you would be missing out if you didn't. Just go to simracingonline.co.uk and sign up to TC Legends: The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. It's completely free so long as you have Assetto Corsa, and yeah, aside from that, you just need to download all of the content, sign up, and off you go. We also have races for drivers on Assetto Corsa Competizioni, R Factor 2, Project Cars 2, Automobilista, R Factor 2, and the original R Factor as well, if that tickles your fancy a bit more. Anyway, let's watch as Kirill Kirilov lines up on the grid, side by side, with P2, who I have temporarily forgotten the name of. Sorry, that's embarrassing. But anyway, we're about to get the lights on and off, 6 lights, and then 1 hour of racing will be underway here at Interlagos in Brazil. Go, 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 away we go. Jeffrey Ruskas is the P2 car, my apologies. Now, as soon as the cars come into view of the first checkpoint, I will be able to show you exactly what's going on. Hopefully everyone goes through turn 1 cleanly. Come on, drivers. Love to be able to actually see what's going on right now. My apologies about this, but that's just how Assetto Corsa works. Jeffrey Ruskas has taken the lead of the race, and we've got an Austin Healey off the road. So an incident in the background. Someone has gone bouncing off the wall, and just trying to work out who that actually was. It was Maxim Tendil. So Tendil has already had an incident, but he has got the car running again. A couple of other drivers dropping back from the pack. Kai Sivertsen is off the tail, so he's been involved. Stefan Lagodin potentially as well. Let's look back up to the lead of the pack. Ruskas leads from Kirilov and then Lako. Those are the top 3 as we head through to the end of the first sector, the first checkpoint. 2 Porsches side by side further back in the top 10, but they resolve it before entering the corner, and everyone has got through cleanly. Matikainen's made up about 7 positions there. He's up to P17 already. John Van der Geest has dropped down to P13, and someone's moving slightly slowly behind him. Jari Lakinen got a little bit of a bad mid-section to that corner, but anyway, they all seem to be relatively clean. Csaba Lako sticking to the tail of Kirill Kirilov, and Laurent Lunds has made a move from for 7th position on the massive Mercedes of Kimi Matikainen. He's now going to chase down Jones's MGB GT if he can, but Matikainen, I think, is actually back alongside him as they go up towards the right hand at Estacionamento. But Mudcannon's now dropped back behind Brown in the MGB GT as well. So some chopping and changing in the top 10 on this opening lap of the race. And he's back down the inside of the MG and he makes the move stick. Although runs wide, he doesn't make the move stick. So Brown is back up the inside and reclaims 8th position in all of that. And that's the trouble with having a very, very heavy car. You do tend to slide wide a little bit. Sorry for the slight glitches and jumps you're seeing on the screen now. If you're just tuning in, that was also occurring in qualifying, so I don't know if that's on my end or not, but anyway, hopefully it will resolve itself as the race goes on. But anyway, still a race is occurring. John Van der Geest now has passed, gone up into 12th place, ahead of Jose Branco. Of course, Branco, I think it was Branco who was piloting the Lotus Cortina last time out, and he has actually switched to the, yes, it was Branco piloting the Cortina, and he has now switched to the BMW 200 BMW 200 for this round of the championship, because the Cortina was just so underpowered. But anyway, up towards the end of the first lap of the race, and we're about to see Jeffrey Ruskas cross the lane and set what will be the benchmark. And there we go. So Ruskas still leads from Kirilov. Look at Johnson now coming under attack from Glyn Jones. Jones up the inside for turn 1, and Johnson's going to run wide, and through goes Laurent Lons in the process. And he is still going to have the inside for turn 2, because unlike the modern version, it's not a right-hander. So Laurent Lons now goes up into 6th place, and Johnson loses 2 places in 2 corners. Can he get Lons back with the slipstream and the power on the straight? He's trying. He's still there on the outside in the bright yellow Porsche. That's the car you've got to be looking for. Now here comes a braking zone. It's only a little one though. It's a fast sweeping corner, but the track narrows up and Laurent Lons keeps the position. So Lons does have 6th place for the time being. So it's Ruskas, Kirilov, Lacko, Galuzzi, Jones, Lons, Johnson, Brown, Mudcannon and Grukok at the end of the first lap of the race. And that's how it will stay for the time being, as we're almost 5 minutes into the race already, but only on the second lap. It's a difficult track to learn actually, because it's so long. It means you have to do far more laps to actually learn the track than you... Well, sorry, you have to spend much more time practicing if you're going to practice the same number of laps as you would at another track, and as a result, it's difficult to achieve. But all of the drivers being relatively sensible about it so far. There was a little bit of bumping and banging on the first lap, but everyone, I think, still running in this race. Paul Upham, I don't think, started the race actually, looking at the timing sheet. He was in the server last time I checked, but he did not actually make the start, and he also didn't make a qualifying lap either. So anyway, Kirilov there has just dropped back 2 seconds and regained it again. That's bizarre. And now he's lost it again. Weird. Okay, I think the timing screen not quite knowing what to do with itself in the middle sector of the lap there, so my apologies about that. But Ruskas already building up a relatively big lead, 2 seconds roughly, although that gap seems to be fluctuating quite wildly pretty much every time they enter a corner. But yeah, definitely Ruskas building up a big gap on just the second lap of this race. It appears to be, weirdly, it appears to be only this section of corners that's actually lagging the cars out. I wonder if I change the camera view, if it'll be a bit better. Anyway, I suppose we'll see about that as the race continues. But yeah, it appears to be only like that section of the track that's lagging the cameras. Weird. Anyway, towards the end of the second lap of racing, and it's still Ruskas. Close in the top 5 though. Jones is under attack from Lons, so Lons is catching. We're riding on board now with Laurent Lons. This is the view that you would have if you were attached to the side of his car, and I'm glad you're not, because that would be extremely dangerous. Times being set at the end of the second lap, and Lund is less than a second behind Jones. There you see the concentration on his face. Now I don't know quite how we're getting this camera view, since there's no drones flying about or anything, and this camera isn't attached to the front of a car behind. But anyway, the magic of sim racing, I suppose. And he will have a good view of Glyn Jones's Porsche up ahead. Needs to be careful though that he doesn't make a mistake while passing, because Johnson and Brown are actually quite close together behind. Oh, and I think Sid Drake's just lost a couple of places. Yep, definitely dropped out of the top 16 all of a sudden. We've got a lot of swapping and changing in the lower positions of the top 15. Jose Branco has just passed Jari Lakkinen and gone up into 13th place. They're side by side. Lakkinen is the red BMW. And now Brown and Johnson have just had a quick scrap, and actually again it took a while to update, so apologies that it had been long gone by the time I switched, but Johnson immediately lost a second, so I wonder if Johnson made a mistake there. Whatever the case, Brown is ahead of him. And now the car in his mirrors is that massive red Mercedes of Kimi Raikkonen. Change again for 13th place, so Branco and Lakkinen still side by side in those BMWs. Just a reminder, Branco is the white one, Lakkinen is the red one. Oh, and they touched, do they? No, I think that was just a bit of lag, because this is the section of track that lags out the cameras for some reason. It looked as if they touched. I'm glad to say I don't think they did. And if they did, it was only a light one, because they're both pointing in the right direction still. They've got Tendel behind them, actually. Tendel recovering after the incident on the first lap. But slightly wide runs Lakkinen, and Branco's going to get a good run on him. And actually Tendel might as well. They're going to go 3 wide. Look at that. The Austin Healey on the inside, and that's probably not going to end well. And I can't tell exactly what's really going on, because again the cameras don't like this middle sector of the circuit. But it looks as if Tendel has got past Branco, and now he's on the inside of Lakkinen and gets him. A good couple of corners for Maxime Tendel, and there goes Branco again. And again the BMW swap, and now they've got another BMW on their tail. That's Sid Drake. No, sorry, Drake is... yes, it is Drake. And then the Mazda RX-3 of Lagodin. But yeah, a good double overtake there from Maxime Tendel. That's got to be move of the race so far. At the end of the third lap, Jeffrey Ruskas has set the fastest lap of the race, so he's pulling away from Kirilov in P2 and extending his lead. However, it's not done and dusted yet, because we do have a pit stop strategy coming up later on, which could spice up the race. Everyone needs to make a mandatory pit stop. Now the BMW swap once again. Lakkinen back up the inside, and are they going 3 wide? It's tough to tell from this angle, but it's definitely close, and the Mazda of Lagodin getting involved. Sid Drake on the inside of Branco. Branco to the outside. And you'd think this was over the top 5 positions, but anyway. Drake up into 15th, runs slightly wide. Branco through back into 15th. Nicely done. Great that they're keeping it so clean as well. I hope I haven't just cursed anything. As you see the massive city skyline of Sao Paulo in the background. Not there, but in the previous image. There we go. They all go flying down into Curva 3. And now John van der Geest has got up into the top 10. So van der Geest has passed Bill Groocock in the Mustang. And van der Geest, who finished on the podium last time out, and Lons is now side by side with Jones. So this is over 5th place. Lons are on the outside. If you can make that one stick, that'll be impressive. Jones in the Porsche. Porsche's very fast in a straight line. Very, very slippery through the air. Very streamlined. and also the only rear-engined car in the pack, or mid-engine technically, but I think that'll probably give them a slight advantage. So Lons wasn't quite able to get past Galuzzi. Oh, sorry. No, wait, no, Lons did pass Jones. Sorry, my mind was absent there. Because they're still 2 seconds behind Galuzzi. Or a second, sorry. Now that's why the timing screen was glitching out earlier in this race. It's because the cameras are as well. That's a weird problem that... Oh, sorry, went to the car in the pits for some reason. But yeah, that's a weird problem we're having with that sector of the course. I think it's something to do with the track. And I think we've had a collision. We have. So Branko and Drake, and I may have cursed them actually because I said they were racing very cleanly earlier on. But yeah, they both stopped on the road. Drake struggling to get his car running again. Is there life in it? Yes, there is. Gets it running again. But a long way down, and he's going to get touched, is he, by a Porsche? Nope, nice and cleanly done, and that was Klaus Jorgensen getting through. And Drake is now plumb last, I'm afraid. Although again, great to see everyone still running. Jose Branco, I think, has gone back to the pits because he suddenly shot up to the lead of the order, and that was basically his car teleporting back to the pit lane. No, it wasn't. It was just glitching out because that's what this track does, apparently. Jorgensen spinning off to the infield and recovering the place. Sorry about some of the glitches. You'll just have to put up with it, I suppose. Martikainen up into... Oh, and... Wait, no, that's still Branko just glitching out. There wasn't a change, it just looked like there was. Let's have a look at Lons. He's been catching Galuzzi. And he's almost within a second of him now. Very, very close. Now, if I was Jones, I would be watching this with interest, because if Galuzzi gets forced off his line slightly by Lons making a move, then Jones might be able to capitalise on that and get back up into the top 5 in the process. And Lons will know that. He'll know that if he makes a mistake while doing it, Jones could possibly jump both of them. It's the difficulty with battling another car. It does come with a certain amount of risk. And wide, and that was Phil Brown. Just saw that out of the corner of my eye. Brown went very, very wide, and he's dropped back behind Johnson. His car slid sideways, and it was pretty much travelling sideways for a long time. Just about gathered it up, but got onto the grass first before doing so. Did well to only drop one position though, so Brown still in 8th position. And still in a competitive place in this race. Kai Sivertsen, sorry. Just passing Stefan Legoden. And that's the new fight for 14th place. Now some of those other BMWs have been taken out of contention. Legoden runs slightly wide, and that might allow Jari Lakkinen to get back up into the top 15. Not quite. These guys were fighting hard last time out. I seem to remember that the Legoden was well and truly in the thick of the action in his RX-3 pretty much the entire way through. And that's seemingly the case again today. John van der Geest now up into 9th place ahead of Kimi Martikainen. So, one of my favourite cars in the league passes one of my other favourite cars in the league. And gets 9th position for the time being. Now, John van der Geest will be benefiting a lot from this race because the championship leader, of course, Tony Talviti, did not start this race, so that means that van der Geest has a good chance of being second in the championship after this round, although he would have hoped for slightly better than 9th in the race. Still could gain a few positions if he keeps it clean and steady. And maybe he can jump a few cars in the pit strategy as well. Convinced that I'm about to miss a move between Jones and Jones, Lons and Galuzzi maybe, but It's one of those races where you really don't know where to look. It's been an exciting first 17 minutes. Yeah, let's have a look at this the scrap actually. Galuzzi, Lons separated by 1.4 seconds. Jones separated by just 8 tenths of a second from Lons. So this bunch very, very close. And a lot closer than they were a lap ago. And I would be surprised if they don't get closer still on this lap. Or maybe even start fighting. A quarter of the way the race gone already, or over that now. And it's still Ruskas leading from Kirilov, Lakkinen, or Lacko, sorry, not Lakkinen. Always get those two muddled up. Galuzzi, Lons, Jones, Johnson, Brown, Van der Geest and Martikainen, the top 10. Bill Grukon not that far behind though. Almost in a battle for 10th place actually. One American muscle car versus one German luxury car. Marius Lebioda's just had a quick spin. You see him recovering from that there. I think that's at turn 2. Gets the car running in 18th position. Still in the points though. Points go down to P23, meaning that everyone who finishes, or everyone who starts this race will score points. And that's, I like that point scoring system actually, because it encourages attendance, and it also encourages continuing on no matter how badly a race is going, because you know, another person retires, you get a few more points. It's not the same as if this was, you know, 1970s Formula 1, where you basically didn't even matter unless you were running in the top 6. But anyway. So surprised actually, because these three haven't really got as close on this lap as I thought they would. Galuzzi's really holding his own in that Toyota so far, doing a really good job in this race. Finished 7th last time out, of course, although did drop back a bit in the late stages. He had been running higher earlier on, so we'll see if that happens again today. But yeah, doing a really good job so far. Being chased down by Lons and Lacko. Sorry, not Lacko. Lons and Johnson. Lons and Jones, not... Oh, God. Well, side by side, Grukok and Martikainen. Ooh, banging doors. Two of the biggest cars on this track, barely even touring cars. Going at it for that bottom position in the top 10. Grukok around the outside. Can he find the traction out there to get the run up the hill? They've got Michal Mazurek just behind them. Mazurek, an open wheel specialist. Here we go, in the slipstream. You don't get much for slipstream in these cars, but you do get some. And into the pits comes Martikainen. So one of the first scheduled pit stops, I think, is being made. Ignore that Mini Cooper. That is not a car that's actually in the race. That just has to... Oh, and he's missed his box. So Martikainen jumped. He overshot his box and had to reverse back into it. And that could cost him a place in the top 10, actually. It's an easy mistake to make, so maybe other people will make it. But anyway, yeah, that might well cost him a place in the top 10. I'm just looking at people's stats, actually. Lorenzo Galuzzi, still relatively new to SimRacingOnline. He's been racing... He's done 7 races with us so far. All in classic sports cars and touring cars. And still yet to score a podium in SimRacingOnline, actually. So he would very much like one of those today. And he's still... I'd say he can still do it. If one of the top 3 either drops out or loses out in the pit stop stages. Lauren Lunds, of course, went a long time without scoring his first win in SimRacingOnline, despite always being up there or thereabouts. But recently, of course, scored his first win in the final round of the GT Legends Classic Sports Car Championship at the Nürburgring Südstrecke. And of course, last time out finished second. Not having quite such a good race today. He's on a 4-race podium streak in SimRacingOnline actually, so if he can make up two places somehow, then maybe he can keep that running. But it'll certainly be difficult. And the driver behind him, Glyn Jones, 25 races to his name in SimRacingOnline, and 1 victory, and that came about a month ago, and that was he won the GTE class of the Le Mans multi-class 2.4 hour single event. So not so much a classic car race, but still a closed cockpit style affair. So those are the racing records of the drivers in this little tussle here. Not so much of a tussle right now, but could kick off again towards the end. Jones has dropped back a little bit from them though, so it might end up just being Galuzzi versus Lons. Remember though, they both still need to make a pit stop, because everyone does, and Lons, I thought he was ducking into the pits that lap actually, because he went quite tight, but stays out a bit longer. I did think that Mads Cannon came in a bit earlier than I was expecting, but that's okay. Different strategies very much allowed and appreciated. It keeps the race exciting. And a lot of these drivers I expect will probably be trying to keep it as close to 30 minutes in as they can in terms of when they make their pit stops. We're interested in looking at the racing record of the top 3 actually, because I don't recognise Jeffrey Ruskas. I think this might be the first time I've ever commentated on him, and I don't think that I've ever commentated on either of the other 2 scoring a podium yet, but I may be wrong. And Lons is now alongside Galuzzi, sorry, he goes to the outside and makes it stick as they go towards the hairpin. Nicely done from Laurent Lons. Got a good run and got it done eventually. He's been catching him for a couple of laps, and I think that puts him in provisional championship, in the provisional championship lead. He may have already been there, I don't know for sure. Phil Brown's now got back up into 7th place ahead of Mark Johnson, sorry, don't know why I said Chris. Brett Metcalf says, hey Caitlin, good evening. Good evening to you, Brett. Thanks for typing in the YouTube chat. And I hope you are enjoying this race so far. We're almost half the way in, and still we're yet to see these drivers make pit stops. Only one driver has that I've seen, and that's Kimi Matikainen. And talking of Matikainen, he's had a spin. So Matikainen, who was challenging for the top 10 positions, has had a spin. Now whether that was assisted or not, I don't know, but around he went, and he's now down to 18th position. Big shame for Kimi Matikainen. And hopefully that doesn't cost him too much, but sadly I expect it will. Just gonna leave it on Galuzzi to make sure he doesn't, to make sure I don't miss it if he challenges again. But anyway, so looking at the racing record of some of the drivers in the top 3 of this race, Jeffrey Ruskas is actually the highest rated sports car racer in SimRacingOnline. He's done 14 sports car races so far, and he's won 7 of them. That's a good tally, that's 50%. And a few more podiums alongside that as well, so yeah, that's impressive actually. I'm not surprised that Ruskas is leading this race. This is his first touring car race with SimRacingOnline. But anyway, and And he actually won a championship with SimRacingOnline recently. He won the ACC, so that's Assetto Corsa Competizioni, FKR Prep Series, with 4 wins out of 6 in that. Kirill Kirilov is the highest rated touring car racer in SimRacingOnline, so yeah, not surprised that he is up there as well. He's done 9 touring car events and won 8 of them. Again, very, very impressive. Johnson there alongside Phil Brown, trying to get the place back after they changed hands a couple of laps ago, but has to back out of it through turn 1 there. Just couldn't, well, he was on the outside and it's very, very wide and long around there. Does he have the grunt to get back up the inside? I don't think he does into turn 3. Yeah, just not enough room. Kai Sivertson's in the pits from 13th place. Johnson, I think, is going to keep attacking Brown towards around the remainder of this lap. Let's see if he can pull a Lon-style move here. He's close, actually. He might make an attempt. The next corner's a left-hander, remember? And that's why Brown was defending that side of the track. Now that's where Brown made a mistake earlier, ran slightly wide, keeps it under control this time, and keeps 7th place, but there are plenty more overtaking opportunities on this track. Even more so than there are on the modern day version. But anyway, yeah, as I was saying, Kirill Kirilov, 8 wins out of 9 in terms of touring cars, 12 wins out of 15 in terms of races overall that he's done with SimRacingOnline, and he's actually won 3 championships with us, as Johnson goes to the inside of Phil Brown and goes up into 7th place. I think he's got the inside line, and that looks done and dusted to me. Brown struggling to get the car turned in, so Mark Johnson takes 7th position in the Bumblebee Porsche, and Phil Brown drops to 8th. And I'm not sure he's going to have anything to say about that for the remainder of the lap, but we'll see. Now, I wonder whether either of them will duck into the pits this time around. I'd be surprised if both of them stayed out. Still got a little way before we find out, though. Brown. Yeah, he is dropping back looking at his sector times, although the sector times in the middle sector aren't hugely reliable. Or in the middle to 3rd sector, I suppose. Actually, the cameras do appear to be doing a bit better now, so I wonder if they've just got used to that part of the track at last. Hopefully, anyway. So, we'll see if the gap between Johnson and Brown extends. I think that Johnson will pull away on the straight, because the Porsche does tend to be very grunty and quick in a straight line. As I said earlier, much more streamlined than the MGB GT and most of the other cars, and theoretically a lot faster as well. That's why they have taken 2 pole positions so far. Although of course it's not the Porsche it's not a Porsche leading this race, remember? Jeffrey Ruskas is leading in a Mustang. Into the pits comes Phil Brown, just so expected, and following him in is John van der Geest. Ooh, and that was close on pit entry. John van der Geest coming in side by side with him and passing him on the pit entry. Almost running into the back of him. I'm so glad they got away with that. Now, does van der Geest jump him in the pits? I hope he didn't speed in the pits. I don't think he would have done, but we'll see. Gets going, and yeah, I think he is going to be quite comfortably ahead of Phil Brown there as they exit. Indeed, they are. Also into the pits, Bill Grucock and Maxime Tendil, who are fighting over 10th place. Now Lagodin's going through in the RX-3, so Brown's going to come out in a little bit of traffic. Lagodin's still yet to stop. And where did Van der Geest come out? He came out in much cleaner air. Yeah, he's got 5 seconds to Michal Mazurek up in front. And is that 2 cars going side by side? No, it's not. I think it was an illusion, just with how long the straight was. Grucock comes out ahead of Tendil. Tendil is going to be jumped by Sivertson. So Sivertson there jumps Tyndall, and of course he's already made his stop, so that is for position there. If you're wondering about these championships that Tyndall has won, which I mentioned earlier, or Kirilov, sorry, the championships that Kirilov has won, he won the Lancia Fulvia Season 1 trophy, he won the Macau Magic JCW Mini race, and he also won the SRO MC WTCC 2007 series. 5 wins out of 6 in that. So very, very competitive. And the third driver on the podium, of course, as it stands, is Csaba Lacker. He has done 120 races with SimRacingOnline. He's a real veteran of the league. 16 wins from those 120 races, but a lot of podiums actually, looking at that. And in terms of championships, he won Taking It to the Streets with 3 wins out of 5, and Mini Challenge with 4 wins out of 6, although both of those were in 2019, so he's yet to win a SimRacingOnline championship in 2020. Galuzzi now is back within a second of Lons, so maybe not over yet. With the fight for 4th, Jeffrey Ruskas making a stop. We knew he had to do it eventually, and he makes it this time around. So Kirilov briefly leads the race. Let's see if he can make the most of it. In the YouTube chat, Vasilis Dumanas says, "Good evening from me too, Caitlin. I wish I could race tonight, but unfortunately I couldn't make it. Keep up the good work." Thanks for the kind message, Vasilis, and sorry you couldn't make it today. It would have been great to see you. Into the pits also came Lacko from 3rd place this lap, and Lons as well from 5th. Brown there passing Lagodin on track. Lagodin still yet to stop, so it doesn't matter that much. Ruskas has come out with very clean air. He's actually come out ahead of Galuzzi. That's important for him. Now what about Lons, Lacko, and Lons has just jumped Lacko actually. So Lons jumps Lacko. Now could he be up into podium contention? It really depends on what Galuzzi does and where Galuzzi comes out. But if Galuzzi comes out behind them, then that means that Lauren Lons will be in the podium positions. Meanwhile, Michal Mazurek pits from 9th place. But yeah, Lons has strategied his way up into a possible podium position. Maybe took less fuel or something like that. Now Mazurek exiting the pits. He's dropped out of the top 10, but he wasn't in the top 10 before the pit stages anyway. Although I think he will be a little bit disappointed to find himself behind the other Alpha GTA of Mariusz Lebioda. They're relatively equal on performance in this series, and I think his target probably would have been to beat him today. But I don't know, I can't really speak on his behalf to do with that. So John Van der Geest now within a second of Mark Johnson. Johnson, of course, recently got past Brown, and Van der Geest must have done the same thing because he's now up into 8th place. And what can Van der Geest do about Johnson ahead of him? The Escort very good through the corners, very stable. That's why it was so popular as a rally car back in the day. Because you could kit. Oh, and wide goes Johnson. He's run through the grass. I think he's touched the catch fencing as well. And John Van der Geest has gone up into 7th position. Johnson, I think, might challenge him back, but that looks to be a move well done from John Van der Geest, although he didn't have to try very hard to it, because Johnson just made a mistake, and there was no holding it after that. So Van der Geest does get 7th position. Johnson all over the back of him though, it's not over yet. And I think both of these drivers are yet to stop, unless I just missed it happening. Around the outside. In terms of pit stops, I know we're still waiting for. Kirilov and Galuzzi are the two most important. And I think Glyn Jones definitely yet to stop as well. Now look at Johnson, he really does not want to give up that place. He knows he's been passed, but he's desperate to get it back again. Into the pits come Jones and Galuzzi. That is from 3rd and 4th place. Now I'm very interested to see where Galuzzi comes out, because this could decide who gets the podium positions. He was in a fight for 3rd with Lons. Now does he come out ahead or behind him? Lons, I think, may have already gone through. Yeah, Lons is miles gone. Jones has gone through as well, so Galuzzi losing a lot of time. And I think that's just what happened in the last race as well, because he was running higher up the order in Baikaniaki and then dropped down. And I think the same thing's happened again, so maybe he's just refueling too much in the pits or something along those lines. And he might actually be passed by Van der Geest and Johnson here. And he is. Well, Van der Geest goes through anyway, so he's going to split the two of them. And there we go. So that means that Lons is up into possibly, well, he won't be 2nd in the race because Kirilov still has to make his stop, but he will be 3rd with Lacko 4th. And Johnson has slipstreamed his way past Galuzzi and almost went around the outside of Van der Geest in that as well. That was down into Curva 3. And away goes Brown, just keeps it within the lines. That would have got his heart rate running. Wow. Surprised he didn't go skating off into the barriers there, but anyway. I'm sure the arm crew would have loved to catch him. Look at these three, very close. Into the left-hander at Ferradura. And up towards Subida di Lago. Johnson and Van der Geest, I think, still need to pit, so Galuzzi probably shouldn't fight them too hard. Although I'm starting to have a sneaky suspicion that they did pit, I just didn't see it. Here goes Johnson to the outside of Van der Geest, not quite there. Just no room into the Curva du Sol. Curva du Sol literally translates as the curve of the sun. Not entirely sure why, but anyway. Down towards the hairpin at Curva di Sargento. Probably translates to Sergeant Curve or something like that. And then you head towards the familiar final sector of the course. And Kirilov pits, so Kirilov makes his stop. Now he will probably come out comfortably in 2nd. Oh, but he's overshot it slightly. That could cost him some time. Now I don't think it's going to be enough to let Lons through into 2nd, but we shall see. Through goes Ruskas, so Ruskas leads. You see the blue Mustang disappearing over the horizon. And yeah, Lons is too far back, so Kirilov keeps that 2nd position. Although lost a bit of time in the pit stages, I think. Exits the box, not entirely sure how the shadow was showing through the wall, but never mind. And Lons is actually a long way back. He's still fighting with Lacko there through the final corner. That fight for 3rd really isn't over, is it? Lacko keeping him honest. Racing him close. Johnson now. Side by side again with Van der Geest. Jones pitting ahead of them, so I think they might be about to jump up a place. Is Van der Geest heading to the pits? No, he's not. Still side by side. Johnson. Is he going to get the line into turn 1? That's very wide. Well, it's a line to say the least, but it wasn't the ideal one. But now he's going to get a mega run. A mega slingshot onto the straight, and we've seen how fast the Porsche is down here. This is where he slipstreamed past almost both of them a lap ago. Although, not gaining enough, is he? I think he gained some. But actually, Galuzzi gained quite a lot there as well. Look at that! Galuzzi on the inside! Galuzzi might well get through here. And he does. He's back up into 6th place. Now what's going on the exit? When they come into view, they're still going to be side by side. It's Johnson on the inside, and Johnson reclaims it, but Galuzzi sold him a dummy. Johnson keeps the place. Good fighting between these two. Still not entirely sure whether this is for position or not, but I think we may find out. Well, we will find out, obviously. How, I'm not so sure, but I'm sure that we'll see. Van der Geest, Johnson, and then Galuzzi is the order for 5th, 6th, and 7th, whether that's temporarily or not. Down the straight they go. There's Phil Brown in the background in the MGB GT. After his close calls, he's had a couple of close calls so far in this race, to be honest. Lucky to still be running. Talking of still running, I think everyone's still running. Let's have a look back at 21st place. Indeed, yeah. All 21 cars that started this race are still going. That is great to see. Very, very clean stuff from everyone. It's exactly what we're looking for. So, Lauren Lunds and Chabalacco were less than half a second separated through the last checkpoint. This is the fight for 3rd position. Lacco not willing to give it up. He was a little way ahead of Lunds before the stop, so maybe he's faster. We'll see. He's driving the number 33 car, and when we talk about drives to 3rd place at Brazil in the number 33 car, I'm sure you know what to think about. But today we're seeing it from Chabalacco. And that's very close there as we head onto the start-finish straight. Two very similarly shaped cars, different makes of course, different models, but similarly shaped. It'll be giving Lacco a nice wind block as he goes down the straight. Or up the straight, as I should say, because it's slanted upwards. Great gradient incline, more to give it its more posh term. 15 minutes to go in this race. Ruskas leads by almost 10 seconds from Kirilov. Then Lons and Lacco are still fighting over 3rd place. Van der Geest and Johnson are fighting over 5th. Then it's Galuzzi, Brown, Jones and Lackinen, with some of those drivers possibly still yet to stop. Chief of those being Van der Geest and Johnson, but again, I may be wrong. Lackinen in the pits from 10th place. So Kai Sivertsen now into the top 10. And I think he has made his stop, so I think that's for real. He'll be happy with 10th place if he gets it. Sivertsen was he was only 15th last time out actually, so I think he would be very happy with 10th place. Or higher if other people drop behind him, obviously. I'm also trying to work out who would be leading the championship if they finished like this, because Kirilov is about to finish 2nd, but Lons is about to finish 3rd, and they're separated by... yeah, so I think it would be Lons who leads the championship if they finish like this, but Kirilov would be a pretty close 2nd, and I think that Van der Geest would be a close 3rd. Of course, Ruskas didn't make the first round of the season, so he might not end up being a championship contender. It depends on who makes what rounds, I suppose. But anyway. Next round, of course, in 2 weeks' time is Monaco. Yeah, that's right, 1972 Monaco. It's going to be quite hectic, to be honest, and I hope everyone gets in a lot of practice for that, because that is a very, very difficult one. Also, still to come on the calendar, the Mexico City circuit, nowadays known as the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, although this is the 1960s version of the circuit. Round 5 will be Willow Springs, famous desert track, and then round 6 will be the very fast Tour Poznan, and that will round out the series. And as you see, there are only 6 races, so it's quite a quick fire series, as are all SRO leagues, and as a result there's not really any opportunities to gain back points if you miss a round, which is why I don't think that Roskas will be a championship contender, but you never know, his main rivals may also be forced to miss rounds, and he might go on to win every race. It's really uncertain so far. He has, however, lost, I think, 4 seconds to Kirillov in that last sector, so maybe made a little mistake on that last lap. I don't think it's just that my timing screen's bugging out again. So I think he's okay. Still 3rd and 4th separated by less than 9/10 of a second. That's one of the battles currently ongoing, as well as Van de Gies versus Johnson for P5. And the further into the race we get, the more I'm convinced that they have already made their stop. So I'm going to stop mentioning that and just assume that they're in 5th and 6th legitimately. We also have a fight going on for P14, and that is Bill Grukok versus Stefan Lagodin. That's very, very close at the minute. But I don't want to miss anything happening for 3rd. Over the curb runs Lons. You can get away with that in this car. Touring cars and saloon cars, of course, are designed to do that kind of thing. They don't mind too much. But it may have cost him a tiny bit of momentum, possibly. Out onto another straight. Not much slipstreaming. You tend to expect slipstreaming from more kind of slicks and wings type cars. Or at least lesser powered cars, but anyway. Towards what is now known as the Senna S, there's still just nothing between them. And talking of nothing between them, there is literally nothing between Grukok and Lagodin through that last checkpoint there. Lagodin, I think, making a move. He's up the inside. This is over 14th place. Not sure when Grukok dropped back, as he was well and truly fighting for 10th place earlier on. But anyway, now he's fighting for 14th, and he gets it. Nicely done from Grukok. Also very close is Tendel versus Martikainen. Again, 2 of my favourite cars. And now Johnson's caught right back up to Van de Giest as well. This really is one of the races where you just don't know where to look. I'll keep looking at Van de Giest and Johnson until Lackinen gets within half a second of Lons. But I just really don't want to miss anything. Whatever the case. And talking of missing something, Martikainen has now got past Tendel, and they're almost locking bumpers there as they go side by side. Tendel doesn't still have the inside line, so that's done and dusted for Martikainen for the time being. He is in 12th position. Runs slightly wide though, Tendel might get a bit of a run. What about Johnson? They're almost up to where those cars are on the lap, actually. Actually, no, they're not. I'm looking at the wrong part of the track. Never mind. Johnson to the outside. He's going to have to go the long way round at the last 2 corners, but he does have the straight line speed advantage we expect. Let's find out. Over the start-finish line again, and there's almost nothing between them. That would have been a photo finish if it was the end of the race. Johnson's lap was over a second faster. He goes around the outside, but I don't know why he keeps trying that, because it never really works, and he needs to focus on setting himself up better for turn 2, because on the exit here you can get such a slingshot, and that can really help you to pass your opponents down this straight. doesn't quite manage it this time. Tyndall now has passed Martikainen back again, so the scrap for P12 continues on its way. Side by side again, actually, up the hill. Martikainen back to the outside. And you see the sheer grunt of that Mercedes. That must be so frustrating from Tyndall, knowing that the Mercedes is coming through and there's nothing you can do about it. And looking at the lap times, actually, Martikainen was a lot quicker than Tyndall that time. And started the lap behind him, of course. So I think he may well start pulling away now. So, Ruskas, Kirilov, Lons, Lackinen, Van der Geest and Johnson, with Van der Geest and Johnson fighting over 5th place, as they have been for a long time. Johnson going for a move, maybe, is he? Not there. Van der Geest covers him off, he's wise to it. Through the Curva du Sol. Slightly wide goes Van der Geest, Johnson on the inside. This is one of his best opportunities yet, but Van der Geest finds the traction. Let's ride on board with Johnson and see exactly what he sees. Whoops. In this situation. Is that a slightly cracked windscreen, actually? I think it's just dirty, maybe, but... Opposite lock engaged. The rusty Escort is all over his front. And he'll know the back of that car like the back of his hand. To the outside. I'd be surprised if he could find traction out there. Van der Geest brake later and just swallowed up the track where Johnson wanted to go. That's how you're supposed to do it when defending. Did it well. Back to the inside. Not quite, because every time he goes to the inside it turns into the outside. That's the nature of these S's, known as the center S. In the YouTube chat, Thijs Lepstra says Ruskas is doing very well. Indeed he is. I think that's an understatement, to be honest. He's now leading, goodness me, 28 seconds. When did that happen? No idea when he built out that margin, but anyway. And Harry A. Kisselo says, Kimi's car is not a car, it's a ship. Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely humongous. Mahusive, you could say. People joke about the modern day Bentleys being, you know, Bartleys or whatever. And of course the BMW M8 has been nicknamed the Big Mate. But this old Mercedes 300 SEL, we need to come up with some kind of nickname for the chunk of it, because it is just huge. But anyway, less than 5 minutes remaining in this race now. Johnson needs to make his move soon. I hope you enjoyed that onboard tour with Johnson. And someone spun there. Looks to be a lapped BMW. I reckon that's Christian Dauger? No, sorry, it's Jose Branco, who unfortunately appears to have been the first driver to retire 2 weeks in a row now. Or 2 races in a row. So Branco not having the best start to his series. Don't know why I thought it was Dauger, so my apologies to him. But yeah, Jose Branco will be classified last in both of the... And Tyndall's had an incident. Tyndall is spinning his tyres to get going, so he's had a spin. Now where's that? That is turn 1. It's a difficult corner at the best of times, so I wonder whether he's dipped a wheel into the grass, or whether he was maybe still fighting with the Mercedes and made contact with it. I didn't see exactly where they were in terms of the timing sheet. He hasn't lost a place in all of that, actually. He's lost a lot of time, but no places. But here comes Bill Grucock. So he's going to have to defend that 13th place hard if he wants to finish there. Yeah, sadly we don't have replays, so we can't see like exactly what happened, but that would be very, very handy right about now. I think we're going to get one more lap after this race, Or after this lap, sorry. Because when Ruskas finishes this lap, we'll have under 3 minutes left. Johnson took a look to the inside of Van der Geest. Still fighting over that 4th place. I wonder if Lacko is going to have a last lap dive on Lons maybe as well. Final lap now started for Jeffrey Ruskas. Don't worry, I will pick him up when he's about to cross the line. Ruskas has driven an absolutely fantastic race so far. And he's not the #1 rated driver in GT cars for nothing. Now these drivers, this fight still has a lap to go, because they are just about to start their final lap of the race now. They haven't crossed the line just yet. Lacko's last lap actually was 0.2 of a second faster than Lons as well, so I think the fight for 3rd still may be on this last lap, but again, I really don't know where to look. Johnson in the slipstream, can he get through? If I was him, I wouldn't try going to the outside of turn 1 again, because it just doesn't work. He needs to focus on getting his line right through turn 1 and setting up the car right. He is going to the outside of turn 1 again, and look at that, it didn't work. What do you know? But anyway. Sorry, that was harsh of me. I'm up here in the commentary box, not down there, so... But whatever the case, that is probably going to be Johnson's last chance at getting 5th place done and dusted. And that means that he will be 6th, so let's watch the fight for 3rd now. Separated by a car. They've got Klaus Jorgensen in between them and separating them. And that may be Lacko's last chance gone. It looks to me as if Lacko just got a little bit balked through that left-hander there. And if he was going to get a chance to pass Lons later on in the lap, I'm not sure that he will now, unless Lons makes an uncharacteristic late mistake. But anyway, yeah, through the checkpoints he's about 1.5 or 6 behind Laurent Lons at this point in time. And that'll be all she wrote for that battle. Jeffrey Ruskas, though, just has a few corners to go before he wins on his series debut, because of course he missed the last round. The Mustang didn't appear particularly competitive last time out, but Jeffrey Ruskas has shown exactly what it's capable of, and not just beaten the Porsches, but thrashed them. Here comes Jeffrey Ruskas through Magulo. Meanwhile, Michal Mazurek's been passed by Kimi Raikkonen on the last lap. But let's keep watching Jeffrey Ruskas, because he's just got left-handers to go. Subida Duboses and then Aki Banquedas. And Jeffrey Ruskas in the deep blue Ford is going to win at the 1975 version of Interlagos. He flashes his headlights, he's very, very happy about that, and he crosses the line. Amazing drive from Ruskas, and he's going to win it by almost 35 seconds, it looks like. That is a very, very impressive gap. Galuzzi's actually now within a second of Johnson. Maybe he can challenge something. Actually, no, I think he's sliding a little bit wide there. Jones, though, has caught right up to Brown on this last lap. And I think he may get an opportunity, actually, because we know how fast a Porsche can be in a straight line. Sorry, I got the hiccups. Goodness me. Oh, God. Anyway, Kirilov has finished 2nd. Lons has finished 3rd. Great drives. Great drives from both of those as well. Sorry, my hiccups are really bad. They always do this at the end of the race. Oh, God. Shabalako, 3rd or 4th position. My apologies. And look at Jones now, attempting to pass Brown on the final lap of the race. It's going to be a drag race to the finish for 8th place. And who's going to get it? It's almost a photo finish, but it's Jones by what must have been just a couple of thousandths of a second. Van der Geest was 5th, Johnson was 6th, Galuzzi was 7th, Jones was 8th, Brown 9th, it's going to be Sivitson 10th. Laurent Lons now leads the championship if my maths is correct. We shall find out after this this round. Thijs Lepstra says good job Ruskas in the YouTube chat, and I have to agree with that statement. He did a very, very good job today. Sivitson does finish in 10th. Mazurek did manage to make it back past Mats Kynan again, and he is about to finish in 11th position. Oh no, he isn't actually, he's backing off. Has Mazurek run out of fuel, or... No, I think he may have... Oh, sorry. I think he may have made an unfair move or something, and he was just giving it back there at the very end. So Mats Kynan was 11th, Mazurek was 12th, very sporting of him, well done to Michal. Maxim Tendil 13th in the only Austin Healey, then it's Bill Grukok in the second Ford Mustang, Stefan Lagodin in the Mazda RX-3, and then also finishing the race are going to be Jari Lakkinen in the BMW. Fight here for 17th, coming to the flag, Lebioda and Drake. I think Lebioda is going to get that. Although sadly the Alpha GTA really doesn't appear to be a very competitive car this season. Almost a photo finish between those two as well. 26 thousandths per second in that, but Lebioda keeps the place. I want to see, how close was the scrap between... who was it across the line basically side by side? It was Jones and Brown. It was just under a tenth of a second, so that's how close that was. Very, very close finish. But yeah, congratulations to Jeffrey Ruskas, who won this race by 35.605 seconds. And that is a huge, huge win. Very well done. Also well done to Kirill Kirilov for second place, and to Laurent Lons for taking the lead of the championship, I think. That's not official yet. And then the other drivers in the top 10 were Shabalako, John Van der Geest, Mark Johnson, Lorenzo Galuzzi, Glenn Jones, Phil Brown, Kai Sivitson. Also other drivers who finished, who I didn't mention at the end there, were Christian Dauger and Klaus Jurgensen, and there was only one retirement, who was Jose Branco. So, Jeffrey Ruskas caused a ruckus, but, and I do apologise for that pun, but what will happen next time out at Monaco, make sure you find out in 2 weeks' time, August the 6th, Monaco 1972. It's going to be a fun one. Join us then. Good night.